All right, so my name is Joshua Anderson, and this is Madison Warden. For our project, we decided to do it on the dangers of an anti-vax society.
So, for our project, we wanted to determine the risk that people pose to society when they refuse to become vaccinated or they deny their children vaccines. Hesitancy to use vaccines was defined by the World Health Organization in 2019 as the reluctance or refusal to vaccinate despite the availability of vaccines, and they claimed it to be one of the top 10 greatest threats to global health. We wanted to learn the benefits of different types of vaccines, background information and demographics of the types of people that commonly refuse vaccines, why they make these choices, and consequences on both an individual and societal level if people fail to become vaccinated. We studied and analyzed peer-reviewed journals and literature to learn this information, and we found numerous credible sources and studies discussing these findings. In the presentation of our findings, we hope to convince students of the importance of receiving vaccinations.
This is the outline we did for our research. First, we started by talking about the benefits of the different kinds of vaccines, the background information and demographics of the types of people that commonly refuse vaccines. And then we start to discuss and we looked into why they make those choices, as well as consequences on both an individual and society level if people fail to become vaccinated. And down here, more specifically, we looked into types and frequency of diseases that are still present today after being eradicated, the number of people who are anti-vax in the United States currently today, and finally, the concentration of people who are anti-vax by the different regions and states here in the United States.
So, for some benefits of vaccination, they've been used for centuries in an effort to reduce the risk of transmissible diseases among individuals and also to slow the spread of diseases among communities. Vaccinations are one of the cheapest public health measures, and they prevent roughly 2.3 million deaths every year. If more people were vaccinated on a global level, it is estimated that an additional 1.5 million lives could be saved. There was a study that found that vaccinating 20% of American children would reduce the number of United States flu cases by 46%, and that vaccinating 80% of children would reduce the total number of cases by 91%. So not only does this significantly reduce the spread of the flu outbreak, but it also leads to a decline in flu-related mortality rates, as well as a reduction in the cost that these deaths place on the economy. Vaccinations also offer benefits to the community through herd immunity for people who are not vaccinated. For example, HIV is a very serious illness that can cause lifelong disability or death. The most common type of HIV, which you've probably heard of, is meningitis. So, in a 2008 study, it was discovered that vaccinating about 70% of people in Gambia was enough to eliminate HIV, and there were similar findings that were found in other populations. Additionally, in 2017 through 2018, it was found that the incidence of measles per million people was 14.2 million people in countries with herd immunity, but 28.4 in countries without. So the occurrence of measles outbreaks in recent years can be attributed to a reduction in vaccination levels, which does not provide herd immunity to populations. So this shows the importance of the majority of populations being vaccinated against diseases. So there's a lot of hysteria, conflict, and political polarization surrounding the safety of vaccinations. In developed countries, there have been outbreaks and deaths that have occurred from diseases that could have been eradicated due to vaccinations. Measles is a very common example of this. Many of the common beliefs that anti-vaxxers hold are that vaccines have the potential to cause autism, they do not allow people's bodies to fight infections as well as they should, and they also support a holistic view of human health, which supports alternative medicine. Although scientific research and organizations such as the WHO and the CDC have rejected these fallacies, many people still continue to hold these beliefs. Additionally, the widespread use of the internet, such as Facebook, Twitter, and personal blogs, has allowed many anti-vax people to spread their voice. So even though there's no credible information to back up any of these claims, many anti-vax beliefs still persist.
Here on this map, there was a study where they were looking into 14 different states across the country. And these 14 different states that have the colors on them are obviously the states that they researched into. And in their studies, they found that the more rural locations, places in states where there were fewer people and people were spread apart, that they were more likely to be anti-vax. Those were the people that had more concerns about the different vaccinations that were being offered in the area. Here in this map right here, or graph, shows a negative relationship between state percentage of kindergarten MMR vaccine uptake and NME rate in the 2016 to 2017 school year. So in other words, when states are giving more non-medical exemptions, people who don't want to get vaccinated just because of the beliefs that they have. As this happens, fewer people go in to get vaccinated. When the states have more requirements on people to get vaccinated, as is expected, more people do follow through and go get those vaccinations. States that more commonly allow non-medical exemptions of vaccines usually have high rates of disease outbreaks.
So as we previously stated, one of the main purposes of vaccines is to prevent individuals from becoming infected with contagious diseases. So the people that reject this opportunity to get vaccinated for a circulating disease are more likely to become ill, and they consequently have to miss school or work because of this, and as well as they contribute to the spread of illness. Although vaccines are intended to reduce the spread of diseases, for this to be accomplished, what matters is not just that individuals have immunization against pathogens, but that a certain percentage of the population is vaccinated in order to achieve the herd immunity that we talked about earlier. So the percentage of vaccinated people in a community required to achieve herd immunity varies per disease, but it normally ranges anywhere from about 80 to 90%. So in other words, if less than 80 or 90% of people in a community have received a vaccination against harmful pathogens, they will continue to spread and threaten the lives of infants, elderly, and other people who are at high risk for diseases.
Here, this graph, it's the introduction of no jab, no school policy and the refinement of measles immunization strategies in high-income countries. Studies have shown that the no jab, no school policy is an example of a measure that can be taken to increase the number of people that are vaccinated, a policy which requires that children entering the education system must be vaccinated before they begin school. Here on the graph, you can see that as people are older, as people become older in age, their likelihood to become infected with these diseases increases. And so that's why they have started trying to promote these vaccinations earlier on, because when students get these vaccinations from a younger age, their likelihood of getting one of these diseases is significantly decreased as they grow older in years.
So in our findings, we concluded that there are many significant benefits to receiving vaccinations. Not only do they reduce outbreaks of preventable diseases, but they also provide herd immunity to protect those in communities. We discovered common reasons why people refuse to vaccinate themselves or their children, as well as the history of the anti-vax movement, which we discussed in our essay. We also found that rural counties and states were more likely to have a higher unvaccinated population and higher rates of permitting non-medical exemptions for vaccines. Widespread education regarding the benefits of vaccination is necessary to reduce the proportion of the population that is anti-vax, as well as to encourage policies that disallow non-medical vaccination exemptions. Additionally, although this research is yet to be conducted, We hypothesize that the number of people who support anti-vax policies will decrease once a COVID-19 vaccine has been produced and distributed. People will likely see the benefits of vaccines once people are vaccinated for COVID and life slowly returns to normal. They will hopefully recognize that the positive effects of vaccinations far outweigh any potential consequences.
If you're interested in looking up a little bit more about what we've talked about, these are some of the sources that we used. All of our sources we found through the UNC library database. So thank you for listening.